Most of the time, we don't really remember things until we're about 4 or 5. The same thing applied to me. Both my parents worked, so I spent most of my time with my grandparents. The town wasn't necessarily horrible, but it wasn't great at the same time. It didn't promise much safety, but it was still safe at the same time. I was a pretty rambunctious kid, so I spent most of my time outside. My grandparents' front yard was the biggest part of the property, so it was practically my own playground. Since I played outside every hour of every day, anyone was able to see me. Then the red Ford began showing up. I always saw it pass the house out of the corner of my eye, but never paid much attention to it because, as a kid, I could care less. The truck would pass by every 5 minutes and would slow down as it got to the front of the house. I always felt as if I was being watched, and in reality, I was. The first time the truck actually stopped, I heard a high-pitched whistle that caught my attention. When I looked over, I saw a man leaning over the passenger seat and looking intensely at me. The weird part about this is that I have absolutely no recollection of what he actually looked like. Whenever I try to think about what he looked like, all I see is just a dark figure, basically an outline of him. Maybe I just suppressed it. "Come here," he said. Since I was a friendly 5-year-old, my mind didn't see any red flags. I walked up like the eager child I was and stood in front of the gate that stood as a barrier between us. "I have a cat back at my house down the block. Do you want to see her?" he asked. Before you say anything, I was taught the concept of stranger danger, but my mind never absorbed it. In my mind, if someone looked or sounded friendly, they were no danger to me. Excited out of my mind, I hopped the fence without a second thought while this guy opened the passenger door for me. I got in and settled in my seat, squirming around as I waited to see the cat. My impulsivity got the best of me, and I could feel the consequence of it. That eagerness began to slowly dissipate away as this sinking feeling in my stomach replaced it. While he drove off, I tried my best to look away from him, focusing on all the details outside the window. Even though I couldn't see what he was doing, I just knew he was staring at me. I could feel his eyes skewering my body, leaving my heart racing as I felt violated by the touch of his gaze. At this point, my eyes were clenched tight, as if I was trying to imagine being somewhere else. I think it was then that the idea of stranger danger really set with me. Typing this part out is sending intense chills down my spine, because while my eyes were closed, I felt his touch. He caressed his hand along my thigh, as if I was a precious cloth, and my heightened sense of hearing shivered my body to the core, because I could hear his heavy, shallow breathing, as if he were excited. Then I could feel a change in the atmosphere. I opened up my eyes for once, and looked up to find him panicked while looking behind him. "Shit," he muttered under his breath. The car began to pull over. I could tell that every muscle in his body was tense. He looked as though he was racking his brain, trying to think of some sort of an idea. He placed his hand on my shoulder, and there was a burning sensation, replacing the feeling of his touch. "All right, Mia, just remember you're my niece, okay?" he said. My brain didn't really catch on to what he was saying, while I stared at him in confusion. I was absolutely oblivious to what was going on, and just sulked in this panicked environment. A man walked up beside the driver's window, dressed up in a police officer's outfit. He looked at the man, and then at me. He smiled as he asked, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Sweating like a madman, he squirmed in his seat and stayed silent. The cop then took a good look at me. He smiled as he said, "Hey, sweetheart, I need you to get out of the car." He walked over to the passenger side where I was sitting, reached in from the open window, and pulled me out. I remember this huge sense of relief spreading around me, not just in my heart or stomach, but as if this immense heat that was surrounding me had been blown away. I held onto this savior of mine tightly and listened while he argued with my kidnapper. "What the fuck do you think you are doing?" he yelled at the cop. The cop looked back at him with a hint of anger that he was trying to suppress and said, "You're not Sly Slick. I saw you trick this little girl into getting into your truck. I saw her enter your truck, and I saw you drive away. Now I'm going to bring her back home, and my partner is going to cuff you and make you regret ever thinking about kidnapping this girl. It was practically like a movie, as this officer carried me back home. My grandma and parents were told what happened. There were tears at what could have been, and there was a bit of anger over that I hadn't learned the concept of stranger danger. But overall, I'm fucking glad that this cop had seen everything and stopped this guy before he could have done anything. So, whoever my kidnapper was, let's not meet again. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more.